As usual, I was scrolling through eBay looking for people to lowball so I could get a good deal on a lens I'll probably never use. And I found this $150 50mm macro lens. I somehow lowballed the dude and got this at market value. Don't know how that works, but I still got that sweet dopamine hit. So let's get the basic specs over with. This is a 50mm f2.5 macro lens that released in 1987. It has either 5 or 6 aperture blades depending on the model and can focus as close as 9 inches. Plus, it's a full frame lens. And frankly, I love this lens. While it's not a true one-to-one macro lens, it can still get reasonably close to objects and produce great images, especially if we're on a crop camera. And while the focusing isn't fantastic, basically across the board, you do still have the option and you have proper manual focusing. It's not like the 50mm 1.8 STM where it's just bullshit. So, the specs are great. But how does this lens actually perform when you're taking pictures? Well, when it comes to sharpness, really damn good. Wide open, it's not the sharpest bulb in the shed, but that's okay because you really wouldn't expect to use this lens wide open often. When close up, you basically can't even see anything besides a thin line of what's in focus and then everything else is just blurred. So it's nice in a pinch, but usually you'll be fine stopping down, which is great because this lens really shines once you stop it down a little bit. At f4, sharpness begins to improve a lot from f2.5, and then all the way from f5.6 to f22, this lens is just really damn sharp. At f22, sharpness starts to decrease to f32, but whatever. And generally, distortions and aberrations are really well controlled in this lens. It has hardly any barrel distortion and very little chromatic aberration. Flares are well controlled too for the most part, due to the actual lens being so far recessed into the barrel. I mean, look at that. It's a little introvert photographer in the womb. And focusing as well, autofocus through the viewfinder is pretty average or below average, not too bad. Usually a focus just fine, it's just not that fast and it's really loud. Focusing in video is a little bit slower than with the viewfinder, and focusing manually isn't amazing, but hey, it's not a stepping motor, so that's something. Especially the closer you get, if it misses focus, it'll just kind of give up and then focus to infinity and then slowly rack all the way back to where you wanted it. Not a big deal for a regular lens, but with the macro, the focus throw is a little bit longer, so it takes a lot longer to rack from minimum all the way to infinity and then back. And because this lens is the home to 50 woodpeckers and likes to hunt a lot when you get close up, I wouldn't really want to use this for video at all if you plan on recording on camera or don't have a good on-camera shotgun. The focus ring, at least, on my copy, is really loose and not tight at all. When pulling focus, it's really easy to just go way too far and completely miss focus. And when you can actually hit focus properly, at least on my copy, it's hard to get the focusing smooth just due to how loose the focus ring itself is. I don't really know if that's universal on these lenses or if my lens has just changed hands too many times, but I certainly don't love it less either way. And the barrel also does extend when focusing, quite a lot actually, because it is a macro lens, but it doesn't rotate, so you can put polarizers and variable NDs on here and not have to worry too much. It does suck that this lens can't quite produce one-to-one images, but for the price, honestly, it's really hard for me to complain, because this 50mm lens somehow has even more practicality than a regular 50mm. Just because it can be used like a normal lens and then also a macro lens without any fuss or extension tubes or anything. And if you really do need the biggest pixels and want that one-to-one, you can just get an extender and really give this lens some more confidence. Plus you can focus closer. I honestly think if you don't have a macro lens, this could be a great first prime lens instead of the classic nifty 50 everyone usually gets. That's how much I really like this lens. It can fit a lot of roles. Even if you are losing some light going from f1.8 to f2.5, you can still use it for everything a 50mm 1.8 can be used for, which means basically everything. And since it's full frame, you can also buy it when you're starting out and just save it until later if you're using a crop camera for now. If you're looking for a cheaper option than this, consider the Canon FD 50mm 3.5 Macro. It's an older version of this lens. It doesn't have autofocus and it won't work on a Canon camera. You need a mirrorless camera and an adapter. But if you're doing video, it honestly might be the better choice just because of the long focus throw and the really good focus ring those old Canon FDs had. And like I said, it won't be possible to adapt it to Canon, but I do have an older video on it if you want to check that out. I honestly don't have that much more to say. If you want one, I have affiliate links to eBay and you can start lowballing people yourself. Or don't. Maybe I shouldn't say that. At this point, I think I need to get a camera or something that isn't as great. I feel like all my reviews have been too positive.